Today's lesson is Where Are You Smiling? Hi, everybody. My name's Roger.
Hello, Roger. I'm Kiki, and I'm smiling at everyone.
Indeed. Where are you smiling? Well, you're doing so in the studio. And, of course, you're smiling because you're very happy to be hosting this program. But today we're talking about smiling, and it may be good in certain places, but not so much in others.
Right. So we're going to learn more about smiling and even if it's appropriate or when it might not be appropriate. And different cultures have different meaning behind a smile. So we're going to learn more about that today.
Okay, so let's find out about smiles and where you can do it. Let's listen to the first part of our lesson and we'll come right back.
Where are you smiling? A smile can express friendliness. But did you know that it can also be considered an indication of madness? A recent study of the meaning of smiles concluded that people who smile are looked upon more favorably than those who don't in Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, weird societies. Examples of weird societies are Canada and the US, where smiling is encouraged because it conveys positive intentions.
大家好，首先我们先来看名词 indication。意思为暗示、迹象或是显示、标示。例如 David gave us an indication that he may get a promotion. David 向我们暗示他可能会升迁。或是 The gray sky and dark clouds were an indication that a storm was on the way. 灰蒙蒙的天空和乌云是暴风雨即将来临的迹象。下一个是副词 favorably， 它是讨人喜欢的、赞成的、称赞的或是有利的。我们可以说Showing confidence and friendliness during the interview will reflect more favorably on you. 在面试中展现自信跟友好的一面，会使你看起来更令人喜欢。又或者说 The brand cooperation between the two companies will make both of them work more favorably. 这两家公司的品牌合作对双方的营运将会更有助益。接下来是 industrialize。这个动词的意思是使工业化。在课文中，这个字为过去分词做形容词用，表示工业化的。例如 This industrialized country has severe air pollution. 这个工业化的城市有很严重的空气污染。或是 The government plans to industrialize the country's major cities. 政府计划将该国的主要城市工业化。
Okay, so the title is kind of interesting. Where are you smiling? Most often, we would probably say, why are you smiling? And that would be an unusual situation. Yeah, why are you smiling? Or what are you smiling at? To smile means to have an expression on your face that shows happiness. And, of course, through years of teaching English here in Taiwan, to smile and to laugh are often confused by local people because I believe the word in Chinese xiao can mean both. So, of course, when you smile, you just have an expression on your face. But when you laugh, you actually make a sound. You're laughing.
Right. So let's start our first paragraph for today. A smile can express friendliness, but did you know that it can also be considered an indication of madness?
Good question. Okay, so yes, a smile can express friendliness. If you smile at somebody, it means you like them and you want to be their friend. But it can also be considered an indication of madness. An indication just means a sign of something. It shows us something or it hints at something. And madness means insanity. So in some places, if someone smiles at you, you might think that they're crazy.
Mm-hmm. And madness can sometimes describe the state of a person that they might be in. They might be doing a silly thing or be having dangerous behavior. Mm-hmm. So that could also express madness. So why is a smile an indication of madness? A recent study of the meaning of smiles concluded that people who smile are looked upon more favorably than those who don't in Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic societies, or known as weird societies.
Okay, so this is a long sentence. It basically is talking about a survey that was conducted by someone, and they have some results. And people who smile are looked upon more favorably. So to look upon just means to be considered. So people who smile are considered more favorably or more positively than those who don't. Now, favorably here is an adverb. It just means it's preferred over something else. They're looked upon more favorably. People like people who smile more than they like people who frown, I suppose. And this, of course, occurs in weird countries, which means Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic societies. W-E-I-R-D, weird societies. That's kind of an interesting term. Western just means Western countries. They're educated. People have gone to school, and they're industrialized. Of course, they have industry. They're developed. And they're rich, and they're also democratic. So that would rule out Russia, of course. And, of course, if something's industrialized, that means it has developed industries on a wide scale.
Examples of weird societies are Canada and the US, where smiling is encouraged because it conveys positive intentions. So when you're in Canada or when you're in the States, when you smile to someone, they are very happy to receive that look on your face when you're smiling, and it's encouraged. So they want people to smile. They want more people to smile. They encourage people to smile because it conveys positive intentions. So it brings positive intentions, and what an intention is basically something that you want or plan to do, or somebody's thoughts. So you know that somebody's intention is good or bad, and by smiling, it suggests that this person is a nice person and they might have good intentions.
Right, and of course, as an American, I don't think people smile all the time amongst strangers, but smiling certainly is encouraged if you work in service professions, like if you sell insurance, or if you wait tables at a restaurant, or if you're a cashier at Walmart or something. They do encourage you to smile because people like to see people smiling, and it conveys positive intentions. So if you smile, that means your intention is good. You don't mean to harm anybody or cheat somebody or try to steal their money or whatever. So yes, indeed, in some countries, smiling is encouraged. Yes, smile at the customers so that we can have them come back again in the future.
So we've learned that in weird societies, it is encouraged to smile. So let's find out in part 2 in what countries where it's not appropriate to smile. Let's take a listen.
On the other hand, in non-weird societies like Japan, Russia, and Norway, smiling may be frowned upon or even viewed suspiciously. As Japanese people tend to value emotional restraint, they generally prefer a neutral facial expression in social situations. Similarly, if you smile at a stranger in Norway for no reason, you might be taken for drunk or stupid. Likewise, Russia has a saying, "Smiling for no reason is a sign of stupidity."
第二部分，首先介绍片语 frown upon 或是 on 加名词或是动词 ing， 它有不赞成点点点或是不允许点点点的意思。例如 Lucy frowns upon her son playing too many video games. Lucy 不满儿子玩太多电玩。或者 According to the survey, most people frown on using cell phones in the library. 调查显示，大多数人不赞成在图书馆内使用手机。接着是名词 restraint， 它是克制、冷静、抑制或是遏制的意思。比如 Abby exercised emotional restraint and tried not to burst into cheers when she got the award. 当 Abby 得奖时，她努力克制自己的情绪，不发出欢呼声。又或者是 My brother has no restraint. He often spends all his money all at once. 我弟弟不懂得节制，常一下子就把所有钱花掉。下一个是 neutral， 这个形容词是不露声色的，或是中立的、持中立态度的意思。例如 As angry as Howard was, he still maintained a neutral expression on his face. 尽管 Howard 感到生气， 他仍然面不改色，或是 Switzerland was a neutral country during World War II. 瑞士在第二次世界大战期间是一个中立国。最后介绍副词 likewise， 它的意思是同样的、类似的或是照样的。例如 Mandy always tries to treat others with kindness, and she expects likewise from them. Mandy 总是努力善待他人，希望他们也同样的对待他。或是 Ray enjoys hiking. Likewise, camping is one of his favorite activities. Ray 喜欢健行，同样的，露营也是他最喜欢的活动之一。
Okay, so again, we talked about weird societies who like to smile, like Canada and the US. Smiling is encouraged. But on the other hand, in non-weird societies, like Japan, Russia, and Norway, smiling may be frowned upon or even viewed suspiciously. So we're talking about traditions in Japan, Russia, and Norway. And yeah, you can't really smile at strangers. Smiling is frowned upon and even viewed suspiciously. So if something's frowned upon, it's not encouraged. People don't like it.
And they might even look at you weird and think that you're suspicious. So not only is it frowned upon when you smile at someone, they might even think of you in a suspicious way. So in this case, suspicious is basically a behavior that makes you think that somebody might be doing something wrong. You're not sure what their intentions are, and you're not sure what they're up to, so you're suspicious about somebody. So in these non-weird societies, if they see you smiling, they're suspecting that you might be up to something that makes them a bit wary.
Indeed, and they're mentioning examples like Japan, Russia, and Norway, but I've heard complaints about people from Northern Europe and other countries as well about Americans who seem to smile at them and they think, what are these people up to? Why are they smiling at me? So indeed, it's not just Russia and Norway, but maybe other countries in Northern Europe as well. And smiling is frowned upon and even viewed with suspicion, or it's viewed or seen suspiciously. And as Japanese people tend to value emotional restraint, they generally prefer a neutral facial expression in social situations. So we're bringing up the example of Japan here. They value emotional restraint. Okay, restraint just means you kind of hold yourself back, you control yourself. Practice restraint, okay? Don't get excited and don't lose control or something like that. So, of course, they want to maintain this emotional restraint. They just want to have those neutral, expressionless faces. And that's what neutral means here. It's not one thing or the other. It's in the middle. So they don't look angry or they don't look really happy. They just look in the middle, just kind of neutral.
So in Japanese society, they actually want you to practice emotional restraint. They want you to stay calm and they want you to have controlled behavior. And that's why they want this type of neutral look where they can't really tell what you're thinking. So you can be more accepted in social situations.
But that's the situation in Japan. Yes, indeed, I have heard that Japanese people tend to be way too formal, okay? In fact, they seem so formal that they're kind of cold in some ways. But similarly, if you smile at a stranger in Norway for no reason, you might be taken for drunk or stupid. I tend to think that Scandinavian people are pretty cool, pretty laid back, but it turns out that they don't like to be smiled at. If you do smile at a Norwegian, for example, they might think you're stupid or drunk or crazy or whatever.
Likewise, Russia has a saying, smiling for no reason is a sign of stupidity. It's really interesting that two countries, Norway and Russia, both think that smiling is a sign of being stupid. I think this might have something to do with earlier on in our first part where we talk about madness, where back in the olden days, before they had more studies on the brain, sometimes people with mental illnesses, they might sit there and just not doing anything and just smile for no reason. So maybe that is a reason why in societies like Norway or Russia, they might think that if you smiled, you might be stupid or there's something wrong with you. Now, in this sentence, we also have the word likewise, and likewise basically just means in the same way. So in the same way, Russia, just like Norway, they think that when you smile, you're stupid. And they believe in this, that they even have a phrase or a saying to emphasize that smiling for no reason is a sign of stupidity.
Right, so likewise just means similar to the Norwegians, Russians don't really like people smiling as well. They think you would be stupid if you smiled, so of course they'd stay away from you and they would not offer you a swig of vodka. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third and final part.
As for why such differences exist, one theory is that societies that value smiling are typically multicultural and multilingual. So individuals there rely more on nonverbal communication, such as smiling, to show good intentions. In contrast, countries with a single culture and language have less need for such nonverbal cues.
Welcome to the final part of our article today, where we will wrap things up and find out exactly when it's appropriate to smile. As for why such differences exist, one theory is that societies that value smiling are typically multicultural and multilingual.
Okay, so if you talk about a place being multicultural, you've got lots of different cultures living in that place or in that country, such as the United States or Canada or maybe the UK. They tend to be multicultural. You see different people all over the place who've immigrated to those countries from other countries around the world. And they're also multilingual, which means you hear more than just one language, especially if you're in some place like London or Toronto or New York. You're going to be walking down the street and hearing lots of languages spoken other than English, like Spanish or Russian or Hindi or whatever.
So individuals there rely more on nonverbal communication, such as smiling, to show good intentions. Now, because there are so many different cultures and so many languages in these cities or these places, that the way to show if they're friendly or not is to communicate in a nonverbal way. And basically a nonverbal communication is to communicate or talk to somebody without using words. And in this case, showing emotion on your face, such as smiling, is a good way to show somebody what your intentions are, how you are as a person, or what you would like to do, how you would like to approach somebody.
Right, so nonverbal communication just refers to communication that doesn't use words, such as a smile or a nod or a gesture or whatever. And, of course, you do smile at people or you do use nonverbal communication to show good intentions. And in contrast, countries with a single culture and language have less need for such nonverbal cues. So a good example of that would be Japan, because the vast majority of people in Japan are Japanese and they speak Japanese. You might hear a little English here and there, but of course that is spoken by the foreigners in Japan, not the Japanese themselves. So yes, indeed, they have this single culture and language, and so they don't need those nonverbal cues. A cue is like a signal or an indication. And, of course, a cue is trying to communicate something to another person. Cue can also be a verb, like, of course, if you're in a TV studio or something and it's the top of the hour and the newscast is about to begin, the director will give the announcer a cue. Yes, it's time to start talking. They'll probably give a signal to them or something. So, again, we're talking about in contrast to multicultural and multilingual societies. In contrast to that, the opposite of the above mentioned, we've got countries with a single culture and language. So in contrast, I can give you the example. My brother John is quite outgoing, but in contrast, my brother Steve is quite shy. So here we're talking about comparing two different things, countries that smile and those that don't. And I mentioned the example of Japan, but you could also mention some other examples of countries. Maybe Korea is like that. You just don't smile at strangers in those countries.
And sometimes you do face that type of situation when you're in Taiwan as well, because nowadays people get shocked because everyone is looking at their phones now. So when occasionally if you smile at someone, they get shocked, but they'll have a little delayed reaction and they'll still smile at you back. So in general, Taiwan is still a very friendly place. When you smile at people, it is accepted and it isn't as frowned upon like it might be in Japan. So it's a good indication that the people in Taiwan are still very friendly and welcoming to foreigners from all different places.
Indeed. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Let's listen now to Hanny, who's got a big smile on her face right now.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分提到，在西方受过教育、工业化、富裕和民主 WEIRD 的社会中，微笑的人比不微笑的人更受欢迎。那接着在课文第二部分，课文用到 on the other hand 来引出对比的情况。他写到说，另一方面，在非 WEIRD 社会中，如日本、俄罗斯和挪威，微笑可能不被认同，甚至被视为可疑。好，那这边我们就来介绍副词片语 on the other hand， 它表示另一方面，那可以摆在句首或是句中，用来引出另一个跟前面叙述有差异或是对比的状况。举例来说， Ian is a quiet person.His sister, on the other hand, is lively and talkative. Ian 是个安静内向的人，另一方面，他姐姐则是活泼又健谈。好，那么 on the other hand 前面也常常搭配 on the one hand 去表达说一方面怎么样，另一方面怎么样。那这是用来引出两种不同或是相反的观点或事实。举例来说， On the one hand, she'd love to have a pet dog.But on the other hand, she's worried that she may not have time to take care of it. 一方面，她想要养一只宠物狗，但另一方面，她担心自己可能没有时间照顾它。好，那读到课文第三部分，他有提到说，至于为什么存在这样的差异，那一个看法是，重视微笑的社会通常具有多元文化和使用多种语言。那么文中是用到 multicultural 来形容多元文化的，还有用到 multilingual 来形容使用多种语言的。那我们看到这两个单字有相同的字首 M-U-L-T-I multi 或是念作 multi。 那 multi 可以表达出多种的、许多的、多个的或是数倍的等等的意思。我们也来补充几个带有这个 multi 的单字，像 multinational 它可以形容是多国的，或者是形容企业是跨国经营的。如果把这个字当名词来用，则表示跨国公司。再来还有像 multimedia 它是形容多媒体的， multi-purpose 那就是形容多功能的、多用途的。那么 multicolored 它是形容多彩的、多种色彩的，或是 multi-layered 那则是形容多层的或是多层次的。好，那以上就是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Indication. Reggie's coughing was an indication that he had caught a cold. Favorably. The new product was reviewed favorably by a major tech magazine. Intention. My intention after graduating is to take a trip to South America. Suspiciously. The security guard became alert immediately when he noticed someone acting suspiciously near the entrance of the building. Neutral. Walter maintained a neutral tone as he discussed the emotional topic. Likewise. Carol enjoys hiking, and Dustin likewise enjoys exploring the nearby mountains. Cue. When a traffic light turns green, it's a cue to start driving again.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, would you rather live in a country where people look favorably or unfavorably upon people who smile for no particular reason, and why?
Seeing as I love to smile, and I like to smile to strangers as well, because I hope that my smile can give them a good feeling and maybe be a part of a good day for them. So I like to smile at people. I'd prefer to live somewhere where people have a positive attitude toward people who smile for no specific reason.
Well, fair enough, but I'd prefer living in a country where people look unfavorably on people who smile without reason. Since sometimes people are smiling just to be smiling, and you don't really know if they're sincere or not, especially if you go to a restaurant in the United States and the waitress really smiles at you. You think they're just doing that to get a bigger tip. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Kiki.
See you next time.